Alright guys, it's Rico from SourceFind Asia. I'm the CEO of SourceFind Asia, of course. Here's another video from the SourceFind Asia YouTube channel. Don't forget, we have the Made in China podcast. Description's in the link. The link is in the description below. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the top 4 ways to tell the difference between a Chinese trading company and an actual factory. All right, so first off, the top 4 ways are 1, asking them, 2, analyzing their website on Alibaba, 3, getting as many inquiries as possible so that you kind of create a competition between the suppliers and they're more willing to give you more information, and 4, obviously physically going there to inspect them. So the first step is when you are asking them, when you're going to Alibaba, you're going through websites and whatever, and then you contact a bunch of factories, you send them inquiries, just ask them. You should ask them, that should be one of the first questions you ask is, hey guys, are you a trading company or are you a factory? A lot of times, I would even say maybe even 70% of the time, trading companies will tell you, yes, we're a trading company, but there's benefits to working with us because of X, Y, and Z reason. Those reasons might be, they might be able to get you favorable rates, they might be able to get you better quality product, they might be able to get you stuff faster, they might have stuff in stock, and then just generally the customer service angle is going to be slightly better with a trading company because trading companies focus on selling, they focus on the actual customer service aspect of manufacturing, whereas manufacturers just focus on making the product. So I mean, a lot of my friends, a lot of people go through this where it's like, especially guys that are in China selling on Amazon, and first they start off working with a trading company and then they dig deeper and find the factory, and then they're like, oh, it's going to be 15% or 20% cheaper because I'm working directly with the factory, but then the factory has no sales rep that speaks English and they're not responsive, and you're just like, well, you know what, if I'm paying 15% more to have somebody who's responsive and is actually looking after my project on a daily basis, I might as well do that, right? So it's not always the best situation to work directly with the factory, especially if you don't have somebody who can speak to the factory in Chinese in their own language, right? So like I said, the first thing is asking them. The second thing is when I talk about analyzing the website, right? So when you go to Alibaba, let's say you're searching for, Bluetooth headphones. So you type in Bluetooth headphones, the search results pop up, right? And you see a couple cool factories, you start clicking on them, they've got designs that you like. And then when you click on that link, it shows you first, the front page is just like, oh, this is our factory, this is where we're located, this is our sales staff, blah, blah, blah. Here are some of the certificates that we have. And then there's View Supplier's website. So when you view Supplier's website, there's another link that pops up. And now you can actually see, typically the supplier's website shows you the product range that they have. It shows you their sort of sales team, who started the factory, contact information is usually there as well. And this is a very easy way to tell if it's a trading company versus a factory, is if they're making Bluetooth headphones and you're looking for Bluetooth headphones, if you go there and you see they have Bluetooth headphones, but they also make iPads or the equivalent of an iPad, and then they also make pens, and then they also have leather bags, and they also have phone cases, none of those products are related to each other in any way, shape, or form. So it's like a factory is going to specialize on this particular product. Even on a Bluetooth headphone, there's multiple different products really in one, right? Like there's plastic here, there's rubber here, there's the electronics involved, like the actual Bluetooth technology. There's an LED light to show you that the headphones are on. There's silicon as well. So, like all of those parts are made by machines, and it's very difficult even for a medium-sized factory or a large factory to have all that technology and all that machinery in one place. So what tends to happen is, the plastic parts are made somewhere else. the rubber parts are made somewhere else, and then there's an assembly place, right? Like some factories that are very large might have all the relevant machinery in one place, but even then they might not have a molding machine. So it's like, for the idea that a factory would be making, you know, plastic products or Bluetooth technology in-house, and then also make leather shoes or leather bags and make a bunch of random stuff, just doesn't make sense. Even the largest factories tend to not do that. They want to specialize and they want to be good at what they're doing. So anytime you go to a Chinese website off of Alibaba and you see a very wide product range and none of them are related, chances are that's a trading company, right? So the third point was get as many inquiries as possible. There's a couple different reasons. One, the more inquiries you get, the more you can kind of look at pricing, right? So like obviously when you work with a Chinese trading company, they add onto your per unit cost. So if you get like, let's say 15 quotations, or 10 quotations rather, what tends to happen is you'll see 3 that are very high, 3 that are very low, and then, you know, 5 to 6 that are like probably 4 to 5 that are right in the middle. So the ones that are in the middle tend to be what the market rate is for this product. That means you're gonna get a fair price and also fair quality. But if you have certain prices that are ridiculously high or ridiculously low, you have to question why, right? Either you're not gonna get the right quality product, or maybe you're working with a trading company and they're buying in a very large volume, so they're able to get lower prices, or they're just marking up the cost so it's much higher than what you would get by going to factory direct, right? So that's one aspect of why you should get as many inquiries as possible, is just price comparison, and then being able to justify, you know, why this factory is this quote is higher than the other, or this quote is lower than the other, and understanding what the market rate should be. The next thing is like you kind of create competition. This has happened to me a couple times. I actually got a story for you about Nick, who's I've been on his YouTube channel, Nick Nerov, and you know, there's a few times when we've reached out to a bunch of suppliers, and then, you know, they're all telling us that they're factories, and then one supplier will contact my team and say, hey, by the way, you know, we've received about 4 inquiries from different trading companies, including yours. And we know that you guys are a foreign-owned trading company and that you guys are going to introduce us to the client directly. We're the factory. All these other guys, these 3-4 other companies, are trading companies, and they're just taking the information that you're giving them and passing it on to us. So, you know, like this has happened, especially recently. It's happened quite a few times. It happened to Nick. Nick he actually went up north. I think he's talked about it on his YouTube channel. He went up north and they took him around to a bunch of different factories, and he actually landed on one supplier that he really liked. And then, you know, my team had the address to what this other trading company told him was a factory that they're going to work with. So my team found that guy, and then that guy told us, as Nick was about to process his first order with this new supplier that he really liked, that guy came to us and said, hey, by the way, you know, are you about to place an order with a new factory? Like, I just got a PO. Is this you? And then I went back to Nick, and Nick was like, yeah, that's me. And, you know, and now Nick is working with the factory directly. So it's just a matter of like getting your name out there, getting a bunch of inquiries out, that can also suss out the competition, because the factory is going to say like, well, you know, this is the same product, 4 different trading companies are coming to me. I might as well see if there's one trading company that has a different business model that works direct with the client and allows me to work direct with the client. I'd rather do that. So it's very important to get as much inquiries as possible. Like I said, price comparison, and then things like this, creating this competitive field. Because that's the thing about China, is like everything's connected. Everybody works together. The factories know each other, especially if they're in clusters, which is another very important point. Is you can tell when you're talking to more factories and trading companies if you find a cluster, like an area where there's a bunch of suppliers. So this is actually tying into my next point, but recently we were looking for a product for a client for Amazon FBA, and we noticed that there was a cluster of factories within 2 to 3 hours of each other by train in northern China, in Zhejiang province, Jinhua, Hangzhou, and Wuxi. So that already told me, it's like, okay, there's a cluster of factories here. That means that chances are most of them are actually factories, because that's the way it kind of works. A lot of factories cluster in the same area because it's easier to bargain for raw materials. Sometimes they work together in certain projects. Like some factories might specialize in, like I talked about before, some factories might specialize in the plastic parts. Some other factories might specialize in rubber. So they're like in the same industry and they usually cluster together. And then also just like, again, raw materials. Northern China is, this particular area is better known for textiles. So a lot of the cotton is made, within a reasonable distance from those factories, and they cluster around that, right? So they're just trying to save costs on transportation and buying raw materials. So we found this cluster, and I was like, okay, you have to go there, which is my fourth point. You have to physically go to make sure. You want to be 100% sure, you have to go. If you can't go, you need to hire somebody else to do it. Wink, wink, plug, SourcePoint Asia, contact us. So I went to this cluster, this area, and the funny thing was that as we were organizing the visit, we contact it was about 4 factories that we decided to visit. We contact them, we say, hey, these are our dates, this is kind of the plan for the trip. I'm going to be visiting quite a few factories, and I'm going to make my final assessment at the end and give my client our findings. And just before I left, one of the factories contacts me and says, oh, hey, by the way, the other guy, in the same city as us? We're like, yeah, they were going to bring you to our factory. So I'm like, oh, so what's he's like, no, we have a relationship with them. And they were kind of being like, and then I was kind of trying to dig deeper. And then once I landed in the city, I was talking to, the factory, the salesperson directly, and she was like, it's a trading company. That company you're going to visit before us is a trading company. And this trading company took me to a factory that was not theirs, obviously. And I asked, while I was there, why is your company name different from your factory name? And they said, well, it's the same owner, but like the office has a different name and all that. And then, but I already knew it was very suspicious. Actually, let me backtrack. The factory confirmed that this company was a trading company after I had visited this first factory. So like their partner had confirmed. So I'm at this factory with this sales rep from the factory that I thought was a sales rep from the factory, and I knew it was weird because they changed the location on me last minute. Originally I booked my hotel so that I was about 15-20 minutes away from their factory. And then, the night before they say, hey, by the way, sorry, we're actually going an hour away. I was like, okay. So that was the first red flag. And then when we got there, I could tell that my sales rep wasn't familiar with her surroundings. So you know how it is when you work somewhere, you live somewhere, or you're at a place frequently. There's a certain level of comfort or understanding about how you move around things, and I just felt like she didn't feel 100% comfortable there. She was kind of like asking for permission to do certain things, not in the sense of like, oh, I don't have the authorization, but it was more like, hey, can we use the meeting room or whatever? And it's like, yeah, I was coming, so of course the meeting room. It was just strange. And then when we started walking around the actual factory, the guy, usually what happens when you walk around a factory is the sales rep that you have or maybe sales manager will walk around the factory and take you through the production process. So she was walking me around, but any questions I had and any sort of explanations about how the product was made, she was talking to this other guy who was following us for some reason. And I asked, who is this guy? She was like, oh, that's the production manager. And I was like, that's interesting. Because, usually a salesperson doesn't need the production manager to babysit her as she walks around the production process, because she's done this tour, or supposedly done this tour a bunch of times. So even though she's not technically knowledgeable, she's learned that whole entire process and can explain it to me in English. Like there's no need for her to default to this guy. Any question I had, she was like, it was like very simple stuff. Even stuff that I was just confirming because it was pretty obvious as I saw what was going on. I was like, oh, is this what's happening? She's like, and I was like, okay. Do you have you ever been here before? Like, do you like? But I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt. I was like, maybe she's new. Maybe she hasn't been working for the company for a long time, and she needed somebody with a little bit more experience to help her close the deal. So we cut to me sitting in the sales in the conference room, and I just asked her, I was like, so how long have you been working for this company? She's like, 3 years. I was like, it's a fucking trading company. Like, it's done. It's a done deal. I was like, you've been working here for 3 years and you don't know how your production process is. Like, that's impossible. So yeah, and then I was talking to my team because they were back in the office, and I was giving them like live updates as it was happening. I was also talking to my client, and my team talked to the second factory I was about to see that day. And this second factory it has a relationship with this trading company, and the second factory confirmed, yes, that's a trading company, and they took you to some random factory. I mean, the factory that they took us to was making the product, it just wasn't their factory. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where it's a tricky field. There's gonna be some trading companies that no matter what you do, they try to pretend and they try to pull some wool over your eyes. It's a combination of experience, but it's also a combination of putting in the work, because with us, for example, if we only talk to a few suppliers, I go to northern China to visit maybe 1 or 2 suppliers, and I don't have this other factory who's able to confirm that this other supplier is actually a trading company and not a factory, because I haven't done the due diligence and put in the work with research and such. And of course, like for me in those situations, I already, because of my experience, I was able to suss out certain red flags and things like that. But at the same time, I think some of the stuff that I noticed was very obvious. Like you don't have to be somebody who's been doing this for 3+ years to recognize some red flags like that. And also just like, I mean, for example, like changing location last minute, like how did you move your factory overnight? That's, and then also just looking at pricing. I looked at the pricing that this company had, and it was in line with what I think a trading company would be charging on top of the base per unit cost that they're buying from the factory. So just to recap, so the 4 main ways, and by the way, the 4th one was the best one, but the 4 main ways to know if you're dealing with a factory or trading company is to 1, ask them straight up, 2, analyze their website, 3, send out as many inquiries as possible, get as many quotes as possible, look for clusters, areas like cities or provinces where there's a ton of those suppliers in the same place. Chances are you're going to have a better chance of finding actual factories. And then the 4th thing is physically going there, doing your inspection in person, asking questions. If anything feels weird or off, go with your gut instinct and ask, hey, like, why do you guys have a different name? Another thing that you could do, like something that I might do, and I took a picture of this factory, the fake factory, the fake factory. I took a picture of their factory name, and I went online and we found their contact information. So we could always contact them and pretend to be somebody else and just ask them, what their connection is with this other company, right? So just put in the work, get somebody to go there for you. It's worth it. And just make sure you follow those steps. All right. Cheers.